Good day. So previously I had spoken about the 8 steps to completing a good implementation, and then I had started talking about step number 1, which is discovery. And I spoke initially about the initial processes of doing discovery. So go view that first video because this video is going to talk about it from an Odoo perspective. Let's imagine now that you have therefore gone through proper discovery. You've learned everything you can about the business that you're helping to do the implementation with. You've learned about the people, the stakeholders, decision makers, et cetera, et cetera. So now you feel like you know the business well, and you need to translate that into Odoo. So the great thing about Odoo is it makes it so transparent, right? You've got all of Odoo's apps on the screen. When you go to the kind of main apps module, you can see them and you can kind of think internally yourself, what apps you would recommend to the customer. And then you can have a discussion with them about it before you, start going through configuration or any of that, those next steps. And so let's just walk through some of these and talk through a couple of examples. So the first is sales. Odoo has 11 apps. Now, some of these apps you'll notice are, I'll call them sub-apps, kind of related to a specific vertical or a specific set of features. And some of them I would call almost add-ons that, if you're doing these things, you might need these add-ons in addition to the main sales module. So the examples, here are sales is the main sales module, and CRM is kind of the pipeline leading up to sales. But then if you have a restaurant, you're going to, on top of that, install the restaurant module and point of sale, typically. If you sell subscriptions, you're going to install the subscriptions module. Classic example there might be a HVAC contractor that also sells monthly or quarterly service subscriptions. If you rent equipment, you're going to install rentals, right? And of course, contacts is the default. You're always going to have contacts related to all of these things. Then you've got these connectors, and they call them connectors, so that makes sense. So if you work with Amazon, you're going to install the Amazon connector. If you have Shopee or Lazada, you're going to work with those. Now, those are the only ones that are kind of native approved Odoo connectors. But if you go into the third-party app store where there are thousands and thousands of third-party apps, there are many, many, many other connectors for like Shopify and Stripe and everything you can imagine. Frankly, if it's out there, there's probably been a connector built for it. So that's just the sales apps that you might talk to the client about. The second one that I'll mention here is human resources. And so that is where you're dealing with everything to do with employees. Again, kind of main application and then sub-applications. So you would have employees, and then you might have expenses and time off and attendance, for example, that might be sub-modules of those. And then if you're doing accounting or you don't want to integrate with another payroll provider, you might want to try doing payroll within ADP. It has an app for that. So all of these are kind of separate. There is one up here I'll mention that is related to internal recruiting, not like if you're a recruiting company. So that's like if you're hiring, you want to track recruits or your hiring process, you would do that here. Okay, so then the final thing I'll bring up is our most complex set of apps, and that is accounting and supply chain. Supply chain is where we get into manufacturing, inventory, purchasing, PLM, all the things that literally double or triple the amount of time of implementation. This is one where right from the beginning of discovery, you want to figure out if they're going to be doing manufacturing, because it really does take you down a whole different rabbit hole of implementation. You can implement 5 other modules in Odoo, other apps in Odoo that I mentioned earlier related to sales and maybe website and things like that, in the same time that it would take you to do manufacturing. And then separately from that is accounting. And accounting is invoicing, which you probably would do as part of sales, but accounting itself is where you are going to use Odoo for internal accounting, for your accounting, instead of a third-party product like QuickBooks. Odoo can do it, but it is a whole bunch of work. Same thing as manufacturing. You definitely want to be an expert at the accounting functionality. Odoo for training, when they do training, they have a whole separate training just for accounting. And that's because it's a separate set of people typically doing it. It's a separate set of skills, and you don't want to mess it up, right? It's financials for your business, so you really don't want to mess it up. So I can talk more about that in the future. I'm sure I will, but for now, this is the basics, the second chapter of discovery.